Okay, done. Thank you. And what is your next?
My question, the thing I wanted to talk about, it's something that I was having trouble with on the project, but I guess it would still be a review. I don't know how to make her count. I was having difficulty with that.
Make what count?
When it was supposed to do like, it was supposed to print the histogram every 10
Every 10?
trials.
Yep.
And it was supposed to do the number of trials and keep counting up.
Yes.
I didn't know how to make her count.
Okay. But I bet you do.
Yeah, I just couldn't figure it out.
Okay. So I'll just, because I'm sure you do know, I'll just refresh your memory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that help?
Is counter a thing that is already in?
No, remember what comes
Variable?
after the 4 is a variable name that you create.
Understood.
Okay.
Huh. All right.
Okay. Any questions, other questions relating to the project or the book or review? Anybody? Hello. Anybody have any questions? Look at all the potential questions you can ask.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going and I'm messing around to see if I can make it work.
Okay. Kieran, do you have questions?
Nope.
Nope. Well, I'm going to challenge you to ask a question. Come up with one. Okay, anybody? Kieran, I'm challenging you. Come up with a question. You can't think of any question. Like, how's my dog? What's my favorite ice cream? Why am I here?
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, that's a tough question. My favorite movie is whatever the last movie is that I saw, which is not true. I've seen a lot of movies that are not my favorite. So no, I'm at a loss to answer that question. Okay, but I'm still waiting for Kieran.
What's your favorite ice cream?
Now that's a good question. Well, maybe we'll have to write a program to explore ice cream flavors, but I guess I would, if I could get a really rich, deep chocolate, I would enjoy that most. How about you?
Mint chocolate chip.
That's awesome, especially made into a shake or a malt. You want to know what I find is to be a mystery in the universe? It's an absolute mystery. If you go to Culver's and ask for a chocolate malt or shake, what flavor custard do they make it with?
I don't know.
Vanilla.
Vanilla, yeah, vanilla.
Why? This is a mystery to me. So every time I go to Culver's, I say, I'd like a chocolate shake made with chocolate. And they're like, what's that? We don't know how to do that. So anyway, How about relating to class?
I
You
was
see
gonna
that?
say,
You see what I was doing there, Kieran? I was just getting you used to talking in class.
yeah.
Okay?
I was gonna say, yeah, sorry to bring it back to like computer stuff, but I've put this in, but when I put the range number of trials, it's like just the last parentheses is saying that there's a syntax error. And I'm not sure why.
Okay. Would you
What's
be
wrong with this
willing?
parenthesis? Oh wait,
Uh,
maybe it's because maybe it is I have to put a colon? It is, I have to put a colon.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
fine.
Right.
Okay, I figured it out. Thank you.
Good for you. You're welcome. Other questions from the book, the projects, or review of Python? Okay, so let's take a peek at what is due. And I think I can find that in my web browser here. Let's see. So project 2 is in. I'm gonna, don't tell anybody, all right? This is a secret just between us here. I'm gonna grade project 2 over the weekend. So if you should happen to upload any updates, perhaps I see 27 people have uploaded their code. That's shy a few people. I think there are 34 people in the 2 classes. So if you haven't uploaded it yet, or you want to upload a change, don't tell anybody, but as long as it's there before I start grading, you're in good shape. Okay, so don't tell anybody. All right, let's see. Also, chapter 3. Someone submitted, folks, you don't have to submit anything for the reading. So what's coming up next on the 9th is another reading, chapter 4. And remember, project 3, you have a little extra time, and that doesn't mean there's more time to push it off and procrastinate. Please get started doing the little bits that you can do right now. At least look at the spec. Read the spec and make sure you understand the specification so that you can ask me questions about the spec. For example, let's see, it's due Monday, February 15th. So on Sunday, February 14th, which I don't know, has some kind of holiday, you get there and you read the spec for the first time and it makes no sense to you. Well, put it plainly, you're kind of screwed. So start looking at the spec now, even if you're not working on it, make sure you understand it. Okay, ask your questions as soon as possible. Okay, so nobody has questions.
I do.
Oh, you did. Yes, you have
Yes.
satisfied the requirements of the universe, and all is well. Anybody else?
Okay.
How
I
long
did
should it
not.
take to make? Oh, wait.
Yeah, go ahead, Anna, and then Colin.
Okay, sorry, this might sound kind of stupid, but I was just wondering, like, for when I don't know how to ask this, I guess, but like for when we're asking to have like a certain number of like figures in a number, how do you like specify that for something that's not a decimal?
Like a fractional number?
No, just kind of like a number, like in project 2 when we had to like specifically have like, you know, a space and then the number because like the other numbers were 2-digit.
Right. So let me flip over to the iPad, and then we'll reinforce the ideas in Replit. Okay, So when you're doing print formatting, and by the way, it's not just for print, because you could do formatting at any time and then perhaps assign it to a variable. So for example, so a string dot format and then values. Okay, so this is at the topmost level. Now, for any value you have here, you have to have a placeholder here. And the placeholders look like a starting brace and at the very least an ending brace. Now this says, let's see if I had that there. And if this is the first placeholder, then it would get the value of the first, it would get the value of the first value. I didn't want to say that, but that's where I find myself. Okay, so without anything extraordinary, the placeholders are filled in the order of the values that are after the word format. Okay, now there's lots of ways of customizing the formatting. So for instance, there would be a colon. And in the case of wanting n spaces for an integer, it would just be the n, which, folks, this is a number. Okay. And then there could be other formatting information. So let me flip over to Replit. See, I'm getting better at flipping between things, and that makes a more dynamic, the more dynamic presentation. So good for me. All right, we're showing Replit, and okay. So suppose let's just do this. We'll say go in the console and make more room. Make more room here. This is an empty placeholder. And here's a value. Okay, and the value of the whole formatting operation was the 7. So let's say I is a number. We could replace that with a variable. Okay, now we can start doing a little bit fancier stuff. So I said so far that colon 15 should be enough. And notice that that gives you 15 spaces in which whatever value you're asking to be formatted can fit. So let me show, let's say with just 2 spaces. But I want to point out that if the value you wanted was bigger than 2 spaces, you'll still get the full value. It won't be truncated. Okay, so the number you specify here is a minimum. Okay, now what if you wanted to, let's go back to 15. Another option is the justification. So how about left justifying compared to the default of right justifying? And there's even a center. Ooh, very, very nice. I like centering. Okay. Now for other types of data, so let's change I to something that is a floating point number. And let's try that. Okay. Now let's try with fewer spaces. No, let's try it with fewer places after the decimal. So how about 15.1? And you get that crazy thing there that says that hello, keyboard, put in the F. Okay, same result. And I'm struggling with Zoom, no matter where I place their stupid controls, it's in the way. Okay, so it wasn't the same result. So now that you've specified the F, it knows that it is supposed to be a floating point number and formatted like a floating point number. So here you have 0.1 means, in the format, means that there'll be one place after the decimal. Anna, does that help?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, and you can even make things centered now. Woohoo. Okay, and then Colin.
Just to keep reaching out for questions, I was going to ask, how long should P3 take to make?
Oh, that depends. If you've made it 100 times before, not very long.
I think this is my first time making a program anything like this.
Okay. Okay, so it'll take longer. Okay. Now, if I were to give just the loosest and most informal rules of thumb, I might estimate you're doing your work maybe, let's call it 6 times longer than I would do it, maybe 8 times longer than I would. So this would probably take me at most half an hour. So I'm guessing 3 hours for you.
Probably. I don't normally do this in one sitting, so maybe a little more than that.
Yeah. And you know what? Don't beat yourself up if it takes a long time. You know, the first time in first grade, the first time they asked you to do an integral, I bet it just took you forever in first grade calculus. Okay, so don't beat you up, but don't beat yourself up.
Right.
Okay. Hey, I do have something else to say with regard to time and time management. A couple of things. First, I'll always give the advice of start early and work steadily. So it's not like a reading. If you leave a reading for the last minute, there's a fixed number of pages and you know approximately how quickly you read and you can guess how long it's going to take you. And a programming assignment's not like that, because you can get into it, think that you're doing great, and then hit a wall. And you don't know how long it's going to take to break through that wall. So programming assignments are different from something like reading. Now, with respect to hitting a wall, if you have hit a wall and are stumped, you face an obstacle, and it's been an hour, then you should reach out with an email.
Fine.
Okay? Okay. Bailey Wellen or myself?
Deal.
Okay. It's important to have the struggle, but it's also important to not allow the struggle to go on too long.
Right.
All right. Other questions?
I have a question.
Hey, wait a minute. Let's recognize Sarah has her desktop working with Zoom. All right. Good job.
That took a while.
Yep. We will miss seeing Sarah's iPad, but I suppose if you want, you can change your name to Sarah's iPad and keep that tradition going.
I'd rather not.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
My question is for the chapter readings. Are they graded by all the questions that you answer in that chapter?
The grade is a composite between your participation and your challenges. So the questions that you answer, as you put it, might be in the form of the participation. It might be in the form of the challenge. Either way, they will contribute to the grade.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, is there any other questions that I can answer for you, including the book? Okay. All righty then. I would like to explore more about sets. And you'll find that sets are an important data structure. They're not used anywhere near as often as lists, even tuples, and certainly dictionaries. Dictionaries being very, very commonly used, and lists being most commonly used. But a set, once again, is like a dictionary in that it has keys, but unlike a dictionary, it only has keys rather than, like a dictionary, keys mapped to values. Okay, so let's take a look at a set. If you want to create, here's the first gotcha. Suppose I'm creating an empty set, or that's my intention. Let's take a look at what is the type of S. It's a dict. And that's because of the use of the braces. Now, braces are also used with sets, but if you make an empty set of braces, it's going to be of type dict. If you want to create an empty set, then use the word set with parenthesis. And now the type of S is now set. Okay? If you create a set with something in it, the braces with something in it, it will be correctly interpreted as a set. Notice the difference in here in that there are no colons, and the colons are the giveaway that it's a dict. So let's say even just this, 1:37. Now, what is the type of S? S is now a dict. And it has a mapping of the number 1 to the number 37. Okay, does anybody have any questions about creating an empty set?
Why would
Okay.
you create an empty set?
Perhaps because you don't know what's going to be in the set yet. In fact, we will do exactly that today as an in-class exercise.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so suppose you have a set. Let's go back to our empty set. And if you'd like to add something to the set, you can. Okay, so using the set name .add, you can add something to the set. Okay, so for example, you might, read a file that's composed of one word per line, and you might add those words to individually to the set. Let's take a look at some set operations, which we did. There was a question about the set operations from the book using like set name dot union but I want to show you another way to do those operations. So suppose we have a set that is 1, 2, and 3. And suppose we have another set that is 2, 3, and 4. So here's S, here's T. If we were to combine them, we could use S with this pipe symbol. It's a vertical bar. So that's S union, that's the equivalent of union T. Now notice the input had 2 2s and 2 3s, but in the union, there's no repetition of the values. And that's one of the defining characteristics of a set. There's no double values. Okay?
And to be clear, that pipe symbol is the quote unquote uppercase backslash. It's the shift key plus the key
Yes.
that's above enter.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Yep, that's called a pipe. All right. So how about the difference between two sets? That would be S. Let's see what S minus T. So that's something that is in S, but is not in T. Let's do T minus S. So that's something that is in T, but not in S. So those are the differences.
When you combine S and T, what is that under? Like, how would you recall that then?
Union?
Well, like, because so it's not under S or T like specifically. So you combine the two. Would it be like if you just put an S? Would that be 1, 2, 3, and 4?
I'm not following the question. Could you help me?
So
How do you recall the object from S
where
union
you,
T?
yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm still not following the question.
So
So
when
when
you
you unioned S and T, is there a way to like call that again? Like, would you have to assign that to a new variable?
Sure. So we could assign that to a new variable. And now Q is the union. We could, of course, also overwrite one of the originals, like so. Is that getting towards your question, Kevin?
Yeah, that answers it. Thank you.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was unable to parse what you were saying. I'm sorry. Okay. So we've looked at union and we've looked at difference. And we saw that the different S minus T is different from T minus S. How about the intersection? So S and T. The overlap in the two sets are the numbers 2 and 3. Okay. Okay.
I have a
Yeah, go. Ooh.
So can these be used instead of the actual like words?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I wanted to show you these because these are so much more concise.
I'm sorry, I have so many questions always. Is there a way to get like 1 and 4? What's different between the two of them put together?
Yes, there is. I forgot. That's the carrot or the hat.
Awesome.
There's 1 and 4.
Thank
Thank you. All right, let's move on to some more about the formatting. So we had an example where it was a placeholder and let's say 2 spaces and dot format, and we did well, I bet this won't work. I'm just curious. I want to see what that does. Yep, yeah, that won't work. Okay. So 9. Okay, so that's a 9 printed in a 2-space column. I'd like to talk to you for a moment about what comes before the colon. So here's a 0. And look at that, we get the same value. It's as if counting from 0, that 0 corresponds or calls out the first argument. So I'll tell you what, let's add another argument. And first let's find out what happens here. Okay, so there's only one placeholder, but I gave it 2 arguments, so it silently ate the argument that is not being used. Okay, but let's add another one, and let's just make that empty, and it should print 10. Let's see, cannot switch from manual field. Okay, guess not. So how about 1 colon 9 and 10? Okay, so, but work with me here. What do you think would happen if I put in that and I don't know, that again? What do you think will print?
Wouldn't it be an error because there's nothing to specify what goes there, or?
So that's one of the ways that you can repeat or perhaps even go out of order. So let's do the second argument first. Okay. Sydney, how you doing? I saw furrowed eyebrows.
Yeah, I think it's making sense, but I'm a little unclear on why the first section of that has something after the colon, but the other ones don't. Is that for the spacing?
Yes, so the spacing specifier is optional. So the first template or placeholder, the first placeholder has the spacing, but the others don't. So we could do, to drive that home, we could put 1 there.
Oh, okay. I see.
All right. Oh, that reminds me, we could make a little game out of this. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. And if all the boys and girls in class are boys, girls, and other in class are good, maybe we'll be rewarded with making a little game out of this. Okay. Okay, so just to remind you what we learned about the formatting, and on purpose, I didn't include print here because I wanted to emphasize that the format capability that you see here is not associated per se with print. You could use it anywhere where you want to put together a string. Okay. Okay. So what did we learn? We learned that you have the left justify, the right justify, which is default, and the center within a number of columns. We also learned that we can call out the arguments to be formatted by number, so that, for instance, we could specify them out of order, or we could specify to format the same field in different ways. All right. Okay. How about we move on to dictionaries, which is subject of project 3. Let's learn a little bit more about dictionary. Let me create one. Let's see. Whoops. And let's see. Okay, so here's some famous couples. All right, so printing out the value of the dictionary, you see that Harry is a key and Holmes is a key. And that Sally is the value that Harry maps to, and Watson is the value that the key Holmes maps to. All right. So the things I'd like to show you, you can get a list out of just the keys. Okay. Now it's not quite a list yet. So let me add another, make a list out of the keys. And you can also make a list out of the values. Okay. Let me add one more just so that I can show something else. So D, and to add something to the list, you could do it this way. Let's see, another. Okay, somebody give me another couple, famous couple.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay. Bonnie gets Clyde. Okay. Now I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that Bonnie appears last. So the dictionary is storing in the order in which the items were inserted. But if you wanted to alphabetically sort the keys, you have to use sorted. Well, let me sorted keys equals sorted d dot keys. And now we could, if we wished, enumerate the dictionary in the order of the keys. Okay. So let's do 2 demos. For key in D, print D, look up, using the key, look it up and print it out. Okay, so Sally, Watson, and Clyde. You could also do, remember we learned about enumerate? Well, there's something similar. So for key, comma, value in D dot items, print the key and the value. Okay, so what we've done so far is we've learned about dot keys and dot values. Where did I demonstrate that? Oh yeah, okay, so I demonstrated that up here. And I wanted that to be a period. And also dot items. Okay,
I was going to ask what items is because we learned that, for example, Harry, Holmes, and Bonnie are the keys, and Sally, Watson, and Clyde are the values. But what does items mean? Is it both of them together?
yes.
Okay. Then why did we have to do for key, comma value?
Well, let's take a look what items returns by itself. So it returns something called dict items. And what you want to look at is that it's a list with tuples inside the list. Okay.
All right.
When you did for key in D, print D key, why did it return Sally, Watson, and Clyde? I thought that those were the values.
Would that be here?
Yeah.
Okay, so key is going to get in turn each of the keys in the dictionary. And I used the lookup. I used key to do a lookup into the dictionary to get the value.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, you're quite welcome. So let's do that again and look at, okay, for key in D, I'll print a little bit more. Print, oh, and let's do some formatting. The key, the value. And that would be key and fetch, using key, fetch the value. Let's see, I need one more. There we are. Okay, does that help drive the point home?
Yeah, it did.
Good.
Just to clarify, asking in the parentheses after format, the key specifically asks it for the key, and then the D bracket key asks it to look into the dictionary using the key.
Correct.
Excellent.
Okay. Very gratifying today to see the ideas being taken up by everybody. Okay.
Just a quick question. Is it best if we all type this in the console or the actual before the running thing?
You mean over here?
Yes.
Well, it depends. If you want to write a program, then do it here. But if we're just playing around and making examples, that I was doing here.
Because I'm putting some of that in there and it's not running.
You're putting it directly in here on this side?
No, on the left side.
I wonder if it is running. So for instance, if you said D equals, let's do L, it's easier. 1, 2, 3, and then you run that, no output.
I think you would have to do print L first.
Yes, so here if you type code into a file and hit run, then you're in a different mode. It's more, the console is sort of like interactive, playing around environment. And it behaves a little differently than when you're running a program. When you're running a program, does not print the evaluation of expressions. So for instance, if I say 5 here and run, nothing. But in the console, when I'm interactive, if I say 5, you get 5. You see a
All right.
difference? Okay.
Yeah, I was just asking because I just want to know if like there was any place to save all this,
Oh,
or even is it required?
is it required? Well, these are lessons
I mean,
from the class.
maybe required is the wrong word. Necessary.
Well, these are all tools that you'll need someday. Okay.
If you're looking for it to reference back to, check the YouTube.
Yeah.
The
Or
recordings
I
are
was
on
planning on
YouTube.
taking a screenshot of it when I was finished, personally.
Okay. Screenshots work.
¿Por qué no los dos?
All right. I'm waiting for my iPad to power up here. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I'm going to ask you to write a program which is going to help you become prepared for Project 3. Once again, we'll do something like Project 3, but not quite the same. So let me get the specification, which I had the presence of mind to write out before class because it's a lot of words. And let's go back to Replit and share the screen again. Okay. So here is the program I would like you to write. All right. And to do this, you'll need the file Shelley.txt, which once again, I acknowledge I spelled Shelley wrong. It should be EY. So does everybody have this in their REPL? Because we can go over how to fetch it if you don't.
Can
I
you?
don't.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, coming right up. So in the specification, well, I'll begin by deleting this so you can see that it how it all goes together. So in the specification, which is here, come way down to the bottom, and how to get the words file. So download this file by clicking on it. And when it has downloaded, which I assume that it has, you then go to REPL. That's gone to your downloads folder. So then with the vertical 3 dots, you can say upload file. And find it in your downloads and then choose for upload. Okay, so for the folks who did not have it, was this successful for you?
yes.
Awesome. I like it when that happens. So here's what I'd like you to do. Write a program that stores only the unique words that were found in Shelley.txt. This is similar to Project 3, but in Project 3, we count the occurrences of each word rather than here, where we're recording only whether or not a word has been seen. So Project 3 uses a dictionary where the keys in the dictionary are the words, but the values count the number of times that word has been seen. This program doesn't care about the count. It only wants to know if a word has been seen or not. So therefore, we can use a set. Okay, now you'll need to, let me just add a little bit more commentary. Also, like P3, this program can be thought of having two phases. One, gather the data, and two, calculate with the data. Okay? All right, so take some time, ask questions if you're stuck. Feel free to talk out loud so that somehow we get the sense of working together.
Sorry to ask again, but where is the file Shelley.txt in? Is it in GitHub?
Okay, if you go to the spec, and that is on GitHub, let me put the URL for that in the chat. It's also available via Schoology. So chat is here and there. So that's in the chat now. So the specification is in a file called readme.md. MD stands for Markdown. Markdown is a very simple formatting language, very, very simple. So I'll show you what the real text looks like. So that's what the underlying text looks like. And you can see it's very straightforward. I'm getting headings. The biggest heading is 1 ampersand. Next smallest is 2 ampersands. So you might use Markdown if you want to format very, very simple documents for the web. Especially on, well, you also has to render Markdown, but that's besides the point. Okay, let's go back to here and go back to what the program. Either that was a question asked by Sarah or Anna. Did I answer the question? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. This is the program we're trying to write, and feel free to collaborate with your neighbors. Feel free to collaborate with the person sitting next to you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When we use the open to open a file, we put it in parentheses, and we also put it in quotations.
Correct.
Why?
Well, the name of the file has to be a string. That causes the quotation marks.
Okay.
And then the string must be given to open. And that's why there's the parentheses.
Okay. So different file names do not, they don't turn into something that it can't, you have to turn it into a string?
Yes. Now there's two ways of doing that. Let's see. We could either, well, any way of generating a string could be given to the open. So for example, S equals Steadily.txt. Then we could open S and F.close. Now, folks, working with files, you're just at the introductory portion. One of the things you don't know how to do yet is to deal with a file name that doesn't correspond to a real file. So for example, F equals open, this file does not exist. That is going to be an error because the file couldn't open. So I have not shown you yet how to deal with that. So for now, let's make sure our files are, we spell the name right and we can find those files. Okay, if you're having difficulty, just talk to the goose.
Is this where we're going to use a blank set? Because we don't know what's in it yet?
Yes.
Awesome.
Now for recollection purposes, so after opening a file, you can read all the lines into a list using you can read one line at a time using read line. So how about we tackle phase one, gathering the data. So I want to read into a set. So I want to establish an empty set. How do I do that? Anybody?
For the empty set, isn't it just like S equals set and then parentheses with nothing in them?
Perfect. Okay. So how about words equals set? And okay, good. And then we want to open the file. How can we do that?
Would you do like input file equals open and then parentheses and then the quote and then the file name?
Perfect. Okay. And let's try it first using read line. So that's reading one line at a time.
Uh, you take whatever variable you want equals input file dot readline empty parentheses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but actually, well, now that I've been talking about it, maybe it's a good time to show you something even more convenient. Or read lines one at a time using in. So we've seen for loops for a line in input file. That's going to read each line one at a time. So forgive me, I should have mentioned that. So we wrote a little, let's test a little, print line. So we wrote a little, let's test a little, go to the shell. Python main.py. Okay, I think I'm going to hit Control C, Control key down and the C key. Okay. Is anyone concerned about the double spacing in the output?
Yeah, but
Now in project 3, it's important that we get rid of the double spacing because the double spacing itself is coming from a new line character at the end of each line. Okay. But in this case, we're using a set. We're not doing any lookup. You know what? Let's just get in a good habit. So how can I eliminate the new line? It has to do with slicing. Does anybody remember?
You got to slice off the last character, right?
Yes. So tell me how to do that.
Isn't it the square bracket, the colon, and then -1?
Yep. Okay, let's try that. I wrote a little. Let's test a little. Ah, looking good. Now I noticed that there's some capital letters here, like there's one. And in project 3, we have a requirement of squashing all the letters to lowercase. Can someone tell me how to do it on line 21 so that I'm not adding another line?
In between the word line and the square bracket, can't you put a period and then the word lower?
Yeah, interestingly, in this case, we could either do it the way you said or at the end. Let's do that. So line dot lower, let's do it the way that you said. Okay, so I wrote a little. Let's test a little. Perfect. You guys are getting to be pros at this. At the end of this course, you get to be, you earn the title of Pythonista.
Wait, what did that do again?
The dot lower
Yes.
here. Okay, so you have a line of text from the file. At line dot lower says, give me an equivalent string where there are no uppercase letters. And then it does the slice.
Okay.
Okay, so we know that things are going pretty well. We now want to add the line to the set. How do I do that? Okay, so how would you add?
Words dot add parentheses line.
Yeah, yeah. Words dot add line. Okay. And that's the end of our loop. So phase 2, before we get there, let's just print words. And that's going to be such a long output, we'll have to interrupt that with Control C. Now, actually, that was really fast. That's how long it was. Actually, it's so long that I can't get to the beginning. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to erase that. Now, how can I very, very easily determine how many words there are in the file? Go ahead.
It would be like the length of the file.
Perfect. So length of words. Okay, let's try that. Actually, I should say this, unique word. That was the point. Good. Now, there's one thing missing here. Can anybody tell what it is? And it has to do with cleaning up after oneself. Anybody?
You have to close the file.
Thank you. Yes, that's right. Now, I could close it down here, or I can also close it after I'm done using it. So words, that's wrong. Input file dot close. That's cleaning up after yourself. Okay. Can I have any questions about this code?
So you close the file after you're done reading it in, and then when you do all the calculations, it's okay that we already closed out the file?
Yes, the calculations are based upon a data structure that you built inside program memory. So the file itself is no longer necessary. Okay. Any questions about the code? Okay, screenshot this if you want. Oh, I'm sorry. Was somebody about to ask a question?
I was gonna, but you know what? Yeah, I'll ask it. Should we still have the print words where the input file dot closes?
No, we added that only for testing as we were writing.
Right. That's all.
Okay. All right, now screenshot this if you wish, because I'm now going to modify it, showing you different ways of doing this that you might prefer. Okay, I'm going to make this into comments so that I can keep them on screen. And I'd like to show you doing it a little differently. And that's with a keyword called with. and then open Shelley.text as input file. Okay. So line equals input file dot read line. Read one line. And what the heck, we could do all the processing here, lower, and slice it. And then words dot add. Well, if you're feeling really adventurous, you could just do that. You can say words dot add and put all of that in parentheses. And notice I have no, that's it. That's the whole loop. I've now done it in 2 lines instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And notice there's no close. So a special advantage of this construction is that at the end of the loop, when it gets to line 22, the file is automatically closed. Let's try that. Okay. That was only one line, so that's I didn't actually write the loop. Okay, so let's try this instead. Well, you know what? I think that I would go back and I now see some value with this construction. So let me eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. And we don't need that one, that's for sure. So width, there. So you see the double indentation. Let's try that. Okay. I'd like to try it one more way, but this way is not going to do the stripping and the lowering and et cetera, et cetera. So I hesitate to even show it to you, but this next way isn't especially great for project 3. So I'm going to eliminate. This time I'm going to use read lines. I'm going to get all of them at once. Now that makes a list. So lines will be a list where every member of the list is one line from the file. So how can I turn the entire list at once into a set? There. So the new knowledge here is that if you have something that is already a container, you can feed it to set and it will build the set for you from the list. Input files, that's my mistake. Okay, now we're getting in a different answer. So that must be because things, oh yes, because we didn't squash the words to lowercase. Okay, so this form here isn't especially useful for project 3.
Why did not squashing the capital letters change the outcome? Oh, wait, because there would be words that are capitalized at the beginning of sentences.
Right.
Great.
Okay. So which is the right way? So which is the right way to do it? Well, there's not necessarily a right way to do it. I would recommend that you do it the way that is most understandable to you. And when showing your code to other people who program in Python, they'll always have their own idea of how it should have been done. And there's even a group of Pythonistas who are Python snobs, and they'll say, look at your code and say, you know what, that's not very Pythonic, as if that was a real word, which to them it is. And you can just say, thank you for your input, and you're not invited to my birthday party. Okay? Okay. So do you have questions about any of the versions of the code that I've shown? So this exercise should help you feel more confident about doing project 3. Okay? Okay. How about in the remaining time, you actually work on project 3? We have 21 minutes. So you've got 21 minutes to work on your own project and have the professor available to answer your questions in real time. Okay?
So we're supposed to build a dictionary,
Mm-hmm.
each of the words as the keys and the values as each time it shows up.
Correct.
Are we making a histogram?
In a way, yeah.
I'm a little confused at how we're putting the number of times into the dictionary as a value.
So suppose we have a dictionary, D equals empty dictionary. And I'm showing you, okay, I'm on the right-hand side. And I discover the word the. So I'm going to add the as the key. And I'm going to increment the number of times I've seen it. So that my intention here, which I will be disappointed, my intention here is that D with key the should resolve or map to the value 1. So plus equals 1. Now this makes intuitive sense. However, it is going to fail. Okay. The reason for that is that statement is the equivalent of this statement. So notice that reading from the dictionary is on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So when you attempt to read the value of the key the, you can't find the key the, so it fails. So in your program, and it's discussed in the spec, you'd have to have an if statement that says if the, which would be a variable, not in B, put it in. Without reading from it, just assign it to 0. And now this one will work. So Milo, you'd be continuing to read the file, and suppose you found the word the again.
All right.
So I'll make it a little bit closer to your project. Let's say, line equals, I'll do this a little bit closer to your project. So it would be the with a new line. Maybe it'd be like this. I'll make it very close to your project. The with a new line. And then dot lower. And slice it. Okay, let's see what's in line. Perfect. So now we have the word. It's stored in line. See? Okay, so what we've done here in class today are each of the pieces of project 3. Okay. So each of the pieces of phase 1 of project 3. Phase 2 of project 3 would be querying the dictionary. So you might have W equals input, enter a word, and you type in the. And then you would follow up with okay.
Wait, where's the file that we're supposed to use for this?
Shelly.txt.
Oh, it's just Shelly again?
Yep, just Shelley again. Yep, so you should have it in your REPL by now.
Oh, fine.
Okay, here for your questions.
I just have so many questions.
Okay.
We have to get the program to put each iteration of, each iteration of each word into the dictionary. We know how to get it to read the file and how to make it all lowercase and to make it not have enters at the end.
Yep, new lines.
Yep, we know how to do that. And then there's the if statement. But we have if enter word is not in dictionary, word equals 0.
Yes, so if you, another way of putting that, you have it correctly. Another way of putting it is if it's not in the dictionary, then manually initialize it with a value of 0.
Correct.
So that the very next line can be the increment and the increment will work.
Right, but how do you make the word or the variable mean all of them? Because we're not supposed to go in and put in every single one.
Yes, you're going to put in every single one, having first checked to see if it's there already. And if it's not there already, then insert it with a value of 0. But if it is there already, just add 1 to it.
So is it supposed to be the input
When
that we're checking for?
If you're looking here, enter a word, that
Right.
was only for the purpose of
That's
this
only-
example because I don't have the file open.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so W in this case would be retrieved from the file.
Okay.
Okay. We have 5 minutes left. How about a treat? You notice over my shoulder is a particular place. Anybody know what place that is?
Is that from the James Cameron Avatar movie?
Yes, that's right. Yep. So that's Pandora. And let me show you what my software did on that. One of the things that my software did on that. And so what's the difference besides the green? What's the difference between these two?
The masks, like in the edited one, it actually has like the bubble.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yep, that's correct. So this is how it was filmed, and no one had glass on their masks. And the reason for that is if the glass were actually there, then everyone would have to have real oxygen supplies. And potentially there would be masks that fogged up. So my software was used to track the movement of the masks and allow for the insertion of computer generated masks.
Not to mention those of us with glasses know for sure there would be a glare on that.
Yep. So anyway, thought that would be fun, a fun way to close our class today. All right, over the weekend, if you have questions, send me email. Also, Bailey Wellen, bwellen@carthage.edu is available for your questions as well. I look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday. Thanks. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Professor, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Is the computer science barbecue still happening?
Yes, Thursday nights tonight, 7 to 9.
7 to 9. Okay, cool. Is
Yeah.
that on the Discord
Yes.
channel? Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.